here at the top of the year, there may be some things that are going on in your life that are very, very difficult. I want to encourage you not to take those difficulties or those hardships or those pains as some kind of proof that God doesn't care about what you're going through or that God doesn't love you. Instead, I want you to ask, how is it that God is loving me in this difficult situation? All right, so we're going to jump forward in the story just for a moment. Jesus said, they waited 2 days, and he went to Judea with his disciples, and he gets there, and Lazarus has already died. And this is what it says in verse 33. When Jesus saw her crying, and the Jews who had come with her crying, he was deeply moved in his spirit and troubled. Where have you put him? He asked. Lord, they told him, come and see. Jesus wept. So the Jews said, see how he loved him. But some of them said, couldn't he who opened the blind man's eyes also have kept this man from dying? Then Jesus, deeply moved again, came to the tomb. It was a cave and a stone was lying against it. Remove the stone, Jesus said. Right, so this is not someone who is removed and doesn't care, right? He's deeply moved in his spirit and troubled. It says that he wept. They remarked, see how he loved them. Jesus deeply moved again. Part of what I find so powerful about this passage is that Jesus is deeply moved even though he knows this will not end in death. Jesus knows he's going to raise Lazarus from the grave. You would think that knowing the conclusion would keep Jesus from the pain that comes with that suspense, that he knows Lazarus isn't staying in the grave. So why is Jesus crying if he knows he's going to resurrect him? Love, because he loves him. Because he sees these other women that he loves, Mary and Martha, grieving. He knows the pain that's caused. He sees their tears. Just because Jesus hasn't responded in our preferred way and on our timetable does not mean that he doesn't care. God sees your tears and he cares. And I want you to understand that God is not less grieved by death than we are. Sometimes when we have experienced grief, we think that God doesn't understand. I want you to know God is more grieved by death than you are. God is the creator of life. God is the sustainer of life. God is the defender of life. He's grieved by death in a way that we could never even understand. And it's not just death either. This is the same for all kinds of pain and grief. This is the same for your anxiety. This is the same for your depression. This is the same for all kinds of pain. This is the same for your physical pain. God created human beings to be whole and healthy. So yes, God is grieved. And there are some times when Christians will kind of wonder, are we allowed to grieve? And sometimes Christians will pressure other Christians to not really be honest about difficult seasons and suffering and grieving. Y'all, Satan would love to convince us that our grief is dishonoring to God, that any time we spend crying is a waste of our time that could have been better spent praying, that God doesn't like it when we really grieve. I want you to know that that is a lie. And one of the ways I know that that's a lie is that when he came to earth as a man, God grieved, that God wept, that it's okay to weep. I would also love for people, when they come into contact with the people of God, those who say we know Jesus, that the kind of compassion and love and caring, being deeply moved by the suffering of others, that people be like, that's what those people who follow Jesus are like. They care about me so deeply that they weep with me when I weep. So the answer to that question, does God really care? The answer is yes, absolutely, which is part of why it's good that death doesn't have the final word, Jesus does.